Samantha from Jessima Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you how to create a really cool technique using translucent polymer clay. And you'll have seen what it looks like already in the photos in the intro. Now, what you're going to need to start with are three pieces of translucent polymer clay. I am using Primo today, but any translucent clay will work. And I'm making three because I am going to be working with three different colours. So you might want less, you might want more, depending on the colours that you want to use in your project. And these are not conditioned at all. I want them to be nice and stiff. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that and I'm going to chop that into little pieces. And by not conditioning it, this makes this process a lot easier. It just kind of breaks up into little chunks, like so. And then you would repeat that process with the other pieces, though to keep everything kind of separate, I tend to do that at the end of the process that I'm about to show you. Then just take that and just gently separate them out so that they're not sticking together. And at this point I would actually really advise placing it inside a little plastic bag, because it just makes a lot less mess that way. And you're going to take these and you're going to take that, place that inside a bag. And the bag needs to be relatively big because you need to be able to shake it around without too much trouble. I'm just going to take all those little pieces like so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring over a alcohol ink. I'm using a metallic alcohol ink, but you can use any color alcohol ink you want, metallic or otherwise. And then I am going to be using a metal leaf that matches with that ink. So in this case I'm going to be using turquoise metal leaf. And that is going to be what goes with the first lot of translucent. And then with the other two I have this sapphire ink. I believe it's called sapphire, is it? Yes. Sapphire blue alcohol ink, along with a sapphire blue metal leaf. And you can see here what that colour is. So matches with the alcohol ink, and that is going to go with that one. And then lastly I have a purple metallic alcohol ink and a purple metal leaf. And so everything that I do with the one, you're going to do with the other. The only thing that's going to change are the colours of metal leaf and the metal and the alcohol ink. So I just wanted to straighten that out. I'll just pop these to the side so that they're not in the way. Alright, and then from there you're going to just take this and start with the metal leaf and just take that out of its covering like so. And this is a really good technique to use kind of scrappy pieces of metal leaf, because it doesn't need to be whole. I'm just trying to get that down. Then I'm going to close this up with a lot of air still in and bring the clay down to the metal leaf and then shake it up. And that will break the metal leaf up really easily. And it's not going to stick too much to the clay at this point because nothing wet has been introduced. At this point now I'm going to grab the alcohol ink and give that a shake if it's metallic. And you're just going to open that up and open the bag up. And it's a little awkward to show, but it really makes cleaning up much easier. And just drop that ink in there. And I want a bit in there, because we're not going to be colouring the translucent with anything else. And then take that and shake. And there we go. You can see there how that has coloured everything quite nicely. Okay. Then you're going to open that up and just tip it off to the side, like so. and it's just going to sit there and dry. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the other two pieces of translucent. I'll even use the same bag. It's okay if it cross-contaminates a little bit. At least in my case, if you want to keep everything completely clean, I would advise swapping out to a different bag, but generally I find it's not a problem. Okay, and there we go. Those are the three piles done. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix them together. You could keep them separate and stack them on top of each other, but I think it'll look nice if everything is mixed together. And so I'm just going to take all of that and I'm going to just roughly bundle that together, separating all of the pieces out so that we get a nice multicoloured piece, or a nice multicoloured cane. Kind of a cane, not really, it's a cane's continuous image, so I guess it's not really a cane. But anyway, you're just going to disperse that out, make sure that pieces aren't sticking together, and once you're happy with the dispersal, then you're just going to take that and you're going to squish that all back together. And you want to really compact it, especially since it hasn't been conditioned. It's going to be a little on the firm side of things. So you might want to, you need to work it a little bit to kind of get your body heat into it. If you're working a warmer climate, this will definitely be easier, but right now I'm working in the middle of winter and it is about 8 degrees, so it's freezing. So my clay is a little firm. So you're going to take that, press it, and bring over your roller. And once you've kind of got it into a shape, you can use your roller to either tap or you can roll it like so. But the goal is to just get everything to stick together. And it's just alcohol ink and a little bit of metal leaf on the surface. There's no paint or mica powders, so everything should stick together. It just might take a little bit of persuasion if the clay is a little bit on the firm side. But you're just going to continue doing that until you end up with a nice compact rectangle piece of clay. And there we go. That is how it should end up looking. You can see it's all compacted together, and it didn't take all that much to get it there. Now you're just going to grab a nice sharp tissue blade. I like to use a flexible one because I find they're a little sharper, but that's personal preference. You can use a firm tissue blade as well if you want to. And we're just going to take a slice out of this, and you can see there how that ends up looking. It's got a really nice mottled multicolour effect. And from there I am then going to take slices that are about, I'm going to go about 2 millimeters thick, between 1 to 2 millimeters, through the entire cane or piece of clay. And each slice is going to be completely different from the last, which is what's really cool about this technique. And we're going to be able to get quite a bit out of this. And then from there we're going to be able to make our slab. And to do that is very simple. You're just going to take your pieces of clay and you're just going to pop them next to each other. It's already in a rectangle shape, so everything should slot together. It's nice and easily. And the closer they are in thickness, the easier it will be as well. Even if they're not all the same thickness, try to find pieces that are roughly the same thickness as one another, and that will help that out as well. Like this one is a little bit on the thicker side on the one end, so I will make sure that that end is the one over here, and then I'm going to end up with a odd one out. That's fine. I'll pop that to the side. I can use that for something else. But there we go. That's essentially what you've got. And then from there I'm going to grab my roller, and I just advise every single time to clean your roller because often there are like little tiny pieces of clay that are difficult to notice sometimes, and then you end up having that appear on your slab, and then, well, it's just sad. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to roll. And having wet it a little bit with a baby wipe also helps because it prevents the clay from sticking to the roller for a bit. You could have a piece of paper in between as well, but I do kind of like to see what I'm doing. And the reason I'm using my roller is because I want the pattern to actually stretch out. I don't want it to stay the exact same as it is right now. Usually I say don't use your roller like this and burnish, but that's because I want the pattern to stay the exact same. If you want the pattern to distort and warp out, then you can use your roller like this. I would not advise putting this through your pasta machine unless you are absolutely 100% that the pasta machine is clean and that your clay won't stick to the rollers. I find I have more trouble with the pasta machine and rolling out pieces like this than is worth it. So I like to do it by hand. And after a while you're going to see very little change. That's when it's kind of stuck to the tile. I'm using a glass tile, but a ceramic tile as well will work. And at that point you want to lift it up. And often I will flip to the other side and then I will continue rolling on that side. And I'll continue this process until I've got it down from about 2 millimeters thick to 1 millimeter thick. And this will also compact everything together again as well, and it's going to stretch the image out. Last thing is I do have this end piece over here and I want this to be double-sided and I want to save myself sanding time. So I'm actually going to go there and I'm going to shave just the top part of that pattern off to reveal the pattern beneath so that it looks the same as the rest of our pieces. You could wait until it's been baked and then sand it off, but you can do it this way as well, and then that just saves a little bit of time and clay, because technically now this is raw and you can still use it. Okay, and here is how that's ended up looking. You can see there how nice that looks, and double-sided as well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out a trinket dish from it, because that's what I want to make. I also am going to cut out a pair of earrings from the scraps because I've got more than enough to work with over here. Right, and I am going to apply a silk screen. This is optional, so it's up to you if you want to have the silk screen or not, but this is the silk screen that I am using. Just going to peel that off the plastic backing like so, and then I'm just going to apply it to the far side over here like so, pressing that down. Okay, and then I'm going to cut out earrings from this side. Then I've got some white acrylic paint. This is the brand I recommend. It is the paint brand that I usually work with when doing these videos, and I'm just going to apply that. Applied a little bit too much there, but that's okay. Then you just go take that and just work that across your screen, and I'm just trying to be careful not to apply it to the area where I still want to work. Okay, and that should just about do. I have a lot of extra paint here, so before I lift it up I should remove some of that, because that can end up with drips. So don't allow that to still be sitting on your silk screen. You want your silk screen to be nice and smooth. Like so. Alright, there we go. Pop that to the side. And then we can lift up the screen. And you can see how that looks. Fantastic. Now you're going to take that screen and place that straight into a sink of water and clean it off while this dries. Okay, and there we go. And I've just trimmed around the edges and placed it on a piece of paper, but there you can see how that looks. I'm not sure if the camera can show it. I will provide some photos at the beginning of the video showing how translucent this is, but it's looking really quite nice right now. Okay, And so from now, I'm going to just bring over a cutter, and this is what I'm going to use to cut out my trinket dish. And this is a little short on the sides, so I'm just going to very gently pull it to get it to the right size. I want to use up as much of this pattern as possible. I think that should just about work. Let me just turn it around so I can see. Yes, I think that will work. Alright, and once you've decided on the size of your trinket dish, you can then just simply cut it out. It should be nice and simple. Just cut straight down, and if you're having a little bit of trouble with that, you can always use your roller to kind of help that along, like so, because this is quite a large cutter. And then lift up the extra around the edges, like so, and that will tell you whether you've cut enough, because it should come away cleanly. Just press, like so. And these are great scraps. You can use those for a number of different techniques by just simply chopping them up and slicing them again. So don't waste those. Those are really good. Alright, and let me get these out of my way. Okay. Also, while I'm doing this, I just want to talk very quickly about alcohol inks and also metal leaf with translucent clay. There is going to be a fairly significant colour shift once it's been baked, so just bear that in mind when you are working with them. This, I predict, is going to turn a little bit more purple than what it is right now. We're going to lose a little bit of the blue, just because alcohol inks that have a little bit of red in them tend to go a little bit pink when they've been baked. And I just have to trim the edge here because the clay kind of came away from the cutter. There we go. There we go. But yeah, just bear in mind that there will be a little bit of a colour shift. Alright, and then I do want a pair of earrings, so I'm going to cut out, let's see, I will cut out a pair from here, and you can see that cuts nice and clean, and then I will cut one over here. Right, and there we go. And that's all I'm going to make from this piece. You can cut out more if you wanted to, but that's all I'm going to do. Okay. Yes, then this needs to go off to the side because I need to actually dome that. Okay, and I'm just going to use this little porcelain dish, and I like to use this to dome the clay. You're going to place that while it's still raw into the dish, and the trick is to kind of get it in there evenly. And I want this to be interesting, so I'm going to try to get these folds to lay down nicely. The clay is still very flexible, so you can still work with it quite a bit, like so. And the important thing is to try to even it out, and if there are air bubbles, to kind of push them away, because they can end up distorting your clay when it bakes. So if you do have air bubbles, make sure that you press and smooth those out, like so. And then you're going to place that into the oven for about 60 minutes at Primo's recommended temperature. I like to bake that long to make sure that everything is cured completely. But you could probably get away with about 40 minutes if the oven has been preheated. I start from a cold oven because that's what works best for my oven. Whatever works best with your oven will work. Alright, and there we go. I don't feel any more air in there, so that can get baked. And then I've got these pieces off to the side, and they're going to get baked on the piece of paper. And then all together, once they're baked, these are going to get a sand, and this one also will get a sand along the edges and on the back. And then this is going to get varnished, and these are going to have some resin on them. Okay, and here is how they should look when they come out of the oven. And you can see that there has been a little bit of a colour shift. Not too much in the blues, it's mostly with the purples. because they've turned a bit more on the pink side of things, and that's quite normal. You can even see the moonstone metal leaf that I used also has a slight pink colour, and that just seems to be what happens when reddish hues interact with translucent clay. It's something that I experience often, so it's just something to bear in mind. But yeah, and these ones have baked up quite nicely as well, so they're all just about ready to go. These I'm going to put to the side. They need to resin, but before I do that, I am going to take this and I'm going to give it a varnish. If the sides need to be sanded at all, you can give those a go. I did give the back just a very light sweep with a 400 grit sandpaper just to get rid of most of the shiny spots on there, but of course you can't sand the side that has a silkscreen. And what I'm going to use for varnish is Varathane polyurethane water-based gloss varnish, and I'm just going to apply that, and I am probably going to do 2 coats so that I get a nice even coat. And I don't like to apply too much when I am working with bowls or dishes or anything with a dramatically curved surface, because the varnish will end up pooling in the base and can end up being too thick there and way too thin on the sides. So I find that it's better to just have a very light coat and then just do 2 or 3 of those. And you just go brush that up the sides, making sure that you catch everywhere, and you should be able to see where the varnish is based on the shine. And I also will varnish the very edges of the piece by just taking my brush and running it along like so. And then once I've applied about 2 coats of varnish to the front, I'll flip to the back and I will also apply 2 coats there, and from there we'll be pretty much done with the dish. Just make sure to allow the varnish to dry between each coat. Okay. And then for the other 2, for the earrings, I've just got a little silicone mat, and I'm going to grab these and place them down. And the silicone is just so that if the resin does spill, it doesn't end up sticking to my tile. And let me just bring over the resin. I'm going to be using this resin today. And it's very simple. You just apply that to the surface of your piece. Like so, and just apply a little bit in the center, less than what you think you're going to need. There we go. And then spread that around like so, and then you're going to place that under the UV light for about 15 minutes. That's how long my resin takes to cure under my UV light. You might need more time, you might need less time. You can also use direct sunlight, that works as well. And yeah, that should pretty much cover the earrings. And you can see how those came out, they're looking quite nice. They'll look even better once I can kind of move them around and show you how that metal leaf interacts. And I haven't decided yet, but I might add a layer of resin to the back as well. So I'll decide that after I have allowed this to cure. Okay, and here is how that looks once the varnish has dried, as well as the other side as well. And I did end up giving it only 1 coat on each side because that ended up being perfectly fine. Feel free to add as many coats as you want. Just bear in mind that it does start to take on a yellow tint the more coats you add, because it actually ends up being quite thick. And these ones I decided to just varnish the one side because I didn't want double resin, because sometimes that can give trouble when drilling. And speaking of drilling, I'm going to just take this drill, I'm going to pop that down and create the hole. The bowl is pretty much done and dusted, and I just need to make the earrings now. And for that I am just going to drill a hole, and then I'm going to create a little chain with some seed bead add-ons to kind of give it a more delicate finish. There we go, you can see that's nice and easy. Alright, and then for the earring, I have a length of silver chain here, a jump ring, let me just grab that. Use any colour metal you want, I'm using silver, but any that will work with your piece will work. And then we're going to be making, let me just bring them over, we're going to be making these little additions, and I've chosen seed beads that match with the piece that we have, so just coordinate it so that you have seed beads that match. And I've just got those off to the side over here, and if you're wondering where I get my findings and the beads, I get them from firemountaingemsandbeads.com. That is where I recommend going, it's the place that I use, so yeah, but there we go. And all you need to do to create these is you're going to need a head pin wire. Let me actually bring the brightness up a little bit, there we go. And I just grab one pink bead, then one of the darker blue ones, and then one of the kind of teal ones. Then you're going to trim that wire and just grab it like so, and then hold both pieces and cut like so, so that you don't lose the little wire off cut. Then you're going to grab a round nose plier. You're just going to take that, grip the end and curl in the loop. Just having a little bit of trouble getting that on camera there. Let me try that again. Grab the end, curl the loop. There we go. Okay, and then that's all there is to it. Then I'm just going to grab the jump ring. I'm going to pop that open, attach my piece, grab the chain and attach one end of the chain, close the jump ring. Okay, and I'm also going to grab the ear wire and attach that as well. That will give me a little bit of a better grip. Just put that on like so. And close. And you could of course leave it exactly like that if you wanted to, that would work. But I'm going to take these pieces, I'm going to open up the loop, and I'm going to attach them at random to the chain. And I'm just trying to get that off. I didn't get it on the right loop. I'm trying to get it on the second loop down. But yeah, you're just going to add those at random to that chain, and then once you've got it on, you're just going to grab that and close it. Sorry if that's a little difficult to see, I'm trying to show it as best I can. But there we go, so that it's attached to a chain like so, and then I will continue adding them. I will add about 4 more just going down the chain length. Okay, and there we go. That is how they should look. And if I just bring this over, hopefully you can see there how nice and sparkly it is. This is quite iridescent in the sunlight. Right now I'm sitting under lamplight, and this is much shinier in the sun, but you can see even here how shiny it is. So yeah, that looks quite nice. But yeah, that is pretty much it. So that is how these would look if you were to make them into earrings, and how they would look if you were to make it into a bowl. So 2 different ways that you could use this technique. But yeah, let me know what you thought in the comments below. Have you tried out this technique before, or is this the first time you've seen it? Would you use these colours, or are you going to try out a different colour combination? Bear in mind you don't have to use multiple colours, you can actually just use one colour. I've done that before and it comes out really quite nice as well. So feel free to play around and have fun with this. It's quite a fun technique to play with. Yeah, if If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'm always happy to answer those. And if you'd like to support the channel so I can continue creating videos just like this one, please do consider becoming a member. There is a join button just below this video, or there is a link to my Patreon account. Both are great ways to support the channel and see some exclusive videos that I don't post on YouTube. Another way to support the channel is to check out my Etsy store, where I sell things such as the silk screen and cutters I used in today's video, and it's a great way to keep the channel going while also getting a few cool polymer clay related tools and supplies for yourself. But yeah, that is just about it. I do hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.